Yeah, you can see the private chat. And it has, so she'll tell us when it's like live. Can you see the live in the top too?
It's live now.
Okay. Oh, it's live now. All right. Hi, everyone. This is Natalie Lenning with Family Search. So nice to see you, and Dr. Khater, who's here with us. Thank you for joining us today. So as we've kind of done already a couple of different sessions, we at Family Search are really working hard to enable people to connect with their family in the past, continue those connections today, and preserving those memories and heritage, and helping to preserve it for future generations. And so we are meeting with experts and other people who can help us to find those connections across the generations. And today, especially, we are focused on the Middle East and North Africa area. We're trying to find records and information about some of our ancestors who have immigrated specifically today to the United States from Middle Eastern homelands. So we're trying to share with you, we're going to share with you some really great resources that can help you find people in your family. I know, for example, in my family, my grandmother used to talk about uncles that I had that immigrated here in the early 1900s. And well, I'm super excited to know, like, how do I find these people? What can I find out about them? So today we have Dr. Akram Khater, professor of history at North Carolina State University and the director of the Moise Khairallah Center for Lebanese Diaspora Studies. And we're excited to have him here as he's going to share some resources that they have available with the rest of us. Welcome, Dr. Khater. So good to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It's a pleasure to be here again, and I'm delighted to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Dr. Khater has joined us in the past, and we just really enjoy having him here. As I mentioned, Dr. Khater is the director of the Moise Khairallah Center for Lebanese Diaspora Studies. So we thought probably one of the first things is we'd like to learn more about what you're doing at the Khairallah Center.
The center, which is about 7 years old now, has a very specific mission, and it is to preserve the history of immigrants who come from what we really knew as Bilad al-Sham, or the Greater Syria, or the Eastern Mediterranean, or the Levant, which today comprises Lebanon, Syria, Palestine / Israel. So in this territory, from this area, we have hundreds of thousands of immigrants who left somewhere between the 1880s and the 1920s, and who came to the United States and also to Central and South America. So basically, from North America to South America, we have a spread. And the numbers really range. We don't have exact numbers, but we estimate at least 300,000. Sometimes the figures go as much as high as 500,000. And a lot of these folks, probably about 2/3 of them, stayed here and settled. So what the center does is we are dedicated to preserving the memories and the history of these communities in North and South America. We focus a lot on the United States, but we're also focusing on South America as well. And then to share the stories of these immigrants with the general public and scholars. And to do that, we are building an archive. It's a completely free online digital archive. And the archive contains anything from letters, photographs, audio, video recordings, material objects, diaries, books, but also a lot of printed matter, because these communities were amazing. I mean, they had a wonderful print culture that manifested itself in newspapers and books. It was a very vibrant culture from Argentina, Brazil, all the way to the United States. So we collect all this material, which really is the kind of the raw data, if you will, what makes the stories of these individuals, and we make them accessible to the general public. But we also turn around and we also tell their stories in our own ways. So we make documentaries, we have museum exhibits or digital humanities projects, and a whole variety of other ways to share these stories with the general public. So that's what we do.
No, I love that. I know as I've gone on your website, I've watched some of the videos and the stories of some of these individuals that I found so encouraging and uplifting and exciting too, really, to hear about their contribution as they've come to another land, if you will, right? And how they contributed to those communities and even their families, So that, I think what you're doing there is really an incredible place. Can you share with us a little bit about some of the resources you have? For example, if I want to look for my uncles that came here back in the 1900s, where would I start maybe at the resources that you have available?
Absolutely.
more for family history.
Of course. So I'm going to share my screen a little bit. It's going to take me 1 second here, and we'll say entire screen. Okay, I hope you can see it all. So,
Almost. Not yet. We're not seeing it yet. Oh, here we
uh,
go.
all right.
Now we can see it.
Okay,
Perfect.
so what I will do is I'll run through an example, then I will talk about other resources we have. One of the things that we have been doing, as I said, is we have been collecting newspapers and books that were published between the 1880s and the 1960s, both in North America and South America. And what we have done is these are all Arabic publications, and they are really amazing resources for the history of the communities because these newspapers include the names of individuals quite frequently that belong to that community. Again, imagine that these are almost like community newspapers in some ways. And so what we've done is we've taken these newspapers and we have not only digitized them, but we've also created what we call Arabic OCR, optical character recognition, that allows us to turn their images into digital text. And I'm going to show you a little bit how one could use that. Now, of course, one of the first things is more likely than not, you will need Arabic. You can search in Spanish and Portuguese or English and try to find names, but generally speaking, to really find the names, you'll probably have to use Arabic at some point. And I'll give you an example of my grandfather who was in Uruguay in the 1880s. And I was kind of curious one day after we have done this. It's like, can I find something about him? If you don't have an Arabic keyboard, we have a virtual one that you could use. I have already typed his name here. I selected that I want exactly that. Everybody's familiar with a variety of ways we can search. So I wanted exactly that name. And I said search. And then it shows me that this name appears on pages in these various publications. The first one is actually a directory. It's called Dr. Abdul's Travels, but in essence, it's a directory of merchants in North and South America that is part of our searchable database. So I clicked on this, and lo and behold, it's maybe hard to see, but you can see it here, the yellow. And I noticed that it is my grandfather's name preceded with the name Salim. And I knew from our family that we had an uncle who went there whose name was Salim, and I had been trying to find him. And what is really fortunate is that I was able to see how it was transliterated from Arabic, which is Salim Asif Khatir, to Salamon Khatir. Obviously, J in Spanish sounds like the Kha in Arabic. So and for the longest time, I had been looking for Salim and I couldn't find him. And then all of a sudden, I noticed it's Salamon Khatir. So then I jumped to Family Search. And I put in the name and I discovered a couple of things. One is there's a name, Salamon Asif Khatir, and this is from Family Search Records. So basically, I took the Spanish and I moved it here. And lo and behold, I discover I have a cousin that I did not know about.
Love it.
Cousin. I discover his name. I discover the name of my uncle's wife. And this is all thanks to, obviously, Family Search. So the point I'm trying to make here is I started out in Arabic. I hope you can see the Arabic now.
Yes.
So I started out in Arabic. And then I discovered that in Uruguay, my uncle had changed his name because a lot of immigrants change their names. And that's part of the problem. To this, Salamon. And I was able to use that to find him in Family Search, where before I had not been able to find him. So that is one example of what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because I was curious too, and I went in on the resource too. I put our family name, which is Bahuth, in English into there, and it also gave me, similar to what you said, like a list of articles. And one of them was, again, a newspaper ad from 1905, and it showed a merchant, which is Gabriel and Bahuth. But in this case, the Arabic spelling was different than my own family's spelling. So I'm like, wow, that would be interesting too, because I'd never thought about this other spelling. So what a great resource to give you different ways to search for family names, depending on different languages.
Absolutely. And I think, obviously, as I said, in this kind of, you can search in any language in this database. But the great majority of the genealogical information you're going to find is going to be in Arabic. Right.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another example. I was talking to somebody on the phone. They said, they told me about my uncle, that he was somewhere in Ohio. And as we were talking, I entered the man's name. And lo and behold, there were about 20 articles about this man in Ohio and what he has done.
Wow.
So obviously, Arabic becomes this incredibly rich resource for us in these newspapers. And I would like to add, right now we have about 300,000 pages that have been digitized, and we estimate that in the next 2 to 3 years, it'll be up to about 1 million.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so that is a huge amount of material to do that. Obviously, some people may not be able to access it easily because they don't have the Arabic facility, but there are ways around that that, of course, we can discuss.
Yeah. I mean, what can people do from that aspect? I mean, I know you're digitizing, but what would you recommend for people who don't have that facility in Arabic, or yeah, they
Sure.
don't have the facility in Arabic?
Well, I think obviously the easiest answer at this point is that to find somebody who has facility with Arabic and to
Yeah.
have them help you. We are, I mean, they can contact us and we're happy to try to help. We're not a genealogical research center, but we are more than willing to help where we can. The least we can do, if somebody gives me their names, I can give them options. We can give them options of what their name might look like in Arabic, and they can take that and try to find it. A more kind of effective way, as I said, is to find a genealogist who knows Arabic and to work with them. To obviously family search is a huge resource. And so I think those are the main things. And what we are hoping to do in the future, because we recognize that a lot of people don't have that skill. So what we're beginning to recognize also, like you said, Natalie, that people, when they come here, they they Latinize their name in all sorts of ways, and vice versa.
Yeah. Correct.
So, given the fact that we are developing such a large database, what we're hoping to do in our next step is to create an AI model that allows people to type, what they think their name is their name in English, and then the AI itself will generate multiple ways in Arabic that it could be. So example that you and I know very well, khuri. People spell
Yes.
khuri in about 100 different ways. But the
Yeah.
great thing about AI is we can teach it that somebody could spell it Couri, somebody spells it Khouri, so on and so forth. And all of that, it will still generate the right spelling in Arabic. So I think that's the next step for us. Obviously, it's not going to happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
but we're hoping by next year.
Yeah, no, those are great advances. And we're noticing even at Family Search, as our AI engineers are developing those tools, gives you more opportunities to find those family members. And these are great developments that are coming forth. I think it's a great tool. The other thing I noticed too, on your website is you have collections. Are people donating some of their collections to your center as well?
Right.
And if somebody is interested in donating, can you talk a little bit about that
Sure.
too?
So basically, what we do is we work with individuals, with families, and with organizations to preserve these archives. So, for example, the Southern Federation of Syrian Lebanese American Clubs, we are the repository for their archives, and we work with them to digitize all the material and make it accessible. So now somebody could go and search for their ancestors, if they happen to be in the southeastern part of the United States, and maybe find their names in the minutes or what have you. Or somebody comes to us with letters and says, look, I've got all these Arabic letters from my grandfather who lived in Shreveport, Louisiana. I don't know what to do with them. And we house them. And what we're doing is we're working with Family Search, as you know, Natalie, to take our digitization ability to the next level. And what I mean by that is currently we take a newspaper or a book and we can scan it and we can digitize it and allow it to be searchable, like you saw right now.
Yeah.
We want to do the same thing with a handwritten Arabic. And so
Okay.
we're working on this project. We're making fast progress. So the letters that somebody has all of a sudden become a rich source of also that information. And so for us, that's what we work with individuals and families who want to preserve their family history in any way, form, or shape, and make sure that they are, for generations to come, accessible to them.
To other people. That's great. Yeah, I know that's something, us at Family Search, we're very passionate about, is helping, whether it's archives or individuals, again, save that information, digitize it, make it searchable and shareable, with others. So as you said, as you're building your collection of family history, hopefully you're able to share it with your other family members and get them excited about it, across the globe. We do have a question about any resources in Farsi. Is there anything that you're doing with records from Iran or Persian records?
So at this point, we don't have anything that is coming from Iran. We haven't seen anything in that. However, the technology that we've developed would be more than easily transferable to Farsi, because obviously Farsi uses Arabic script. So the same concept, whether it is print or whether it is written, eventually we can use that technology for the same kind of records. But at this point, no. And I honestly don't know of any Iranian records that are accessible publicly at this point that I'm aware
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
There is a possibility, if somebody is interested, I think at San Francisco State University, there is a Center for Iranian Diaspora Studies. And
Okay.
uh, they may be able to provide a little bit more information on that. That's at San
Okay.
Francisco State University.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that tip.
Sure.
Do you have records for diasporas in other countries? You had brought up that your ancestors or had one of your ancestors had immigrated to Uruguay.
Sure.
Are there other connections, or that from the Khairallah Center to other collections in other countries
Yeah.
for those same peoples?
So I'll share my screen again because I think it's. I hope you can see the Find Your Ancestors.
Maybe in a second. It's going to come up.
It's sharing my screen supposedly, but I'm not sure if it is.
Here it is. It's just always like a 10-second delay, but we can see it. Find Your Ancestors.
So one of the things that I, for example, would point out to is the Argentina Business Directory that we have digitized. And this is from 1942. We have several other ones. And here you can see that you can go in and search that. If you happen to know the occupation, if you happen to know what province, what municipality, even possibly last name, sort of Kababi, for example, you search, and it'll pull up information that we have about this individual within this directory. But in essence, I think we are just beginning to explore beyond the United States. And I think the richer area that we have is this, as I said, the newspaper database. So if you look at our periodicals, you will see that a lot of these things, Acolonia, Nova Andalucia, Avinia, all of these things are actually from South America. So half of our collection so far is coming from South America, primarily Brazil and Argentina, but also a little bit from Mexico. And we will continue to be expanding that. For example, we're working with the Chilean National Archives, a library, to be able to bring some Arabic newspapers that were published by the Palestinian diaspora community in Chile. So for us, it is something that we are continuing to grow every day.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Hopefully, we wish you the best with that. So we've got a couple of other questions. One of them is, you mentioned about the digitization and these digital archives. The question is, what measures are in place to ensure a long-term preservation of these digital archives?
Sure. And it's an excellent question, because the reality is digital archives, like anything else, will deteriorate over time. And so for us, what we do is we always have the originals that are preserved in just very much like Family Search does. We preserve things in a very secure environment, the physical. So the newspapers, the books, they're all there. And we estimate that we will always need to redigitize things every 10 to 25 years, depending upon things. So for us, this is one element. The other element is obviously, like a lot of organizations, we don't put our eggs in the same basket, which means that we have about 10 different backup systems for everything that we do digitally. And obviously, we're situated within university. It's a STEM university, which gives us a huge advantage in terms of digital technologies. And we're always working with the computer science department and engineering to make sure that we are up to the best standards that we can. And obviously, our relationship with Family Search is very essential in all of this.
Yeah, it's definitely so many stakeholders in this, so many people helping to, preservation, digitization, preservation. It's truly many hands, are helping to make it successful. A couple of other questions. One is, are there any educational programs or initiatives that use the digital archives as a learning source? Is anybody using this, to help teach and,
Sure, absolutely. We actually, everything that we have usually comes with a K through 12 teaching units. Our most recent project is called Arab American Labor. And that project right now, we're currently working on units classroom units that we will be finishing hopefully in the summer, and then we'll be creating workshops. We do a lot of workshops for K through 12 teachers, both in the United States and the Middle East, actually. So what we try to do
Oh,
is we try to publish our resources both in English and Arabic, and we work with teachers, both in the Middle East and the United States to make these things accessible. We also obviously work with college professors to make these things accessible as well, because we feel it's very important to get these into the classroom. Because quite frankly, our story as Arab Americans, as Lebanese Americans, as whatever you want to call
yeah.
yourself, is very much absent from the history of America. And our job, in many ways, we see our job is to interweave our story into the very DNA of the United States.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I agree with you. I think that's so important. And it's part of preserving that history. It's telling people's stories, their contributions, and preserving that history. And so that it's a more correct history, let's say, of these different groups that have made an impact on our country, Another one too is, has the archive been promoted within the Arab American community? And is there a community involvement in the curation process?
Yeah, it's another great question. So we work on the premise of what's called Archive 2.0.
Okay.
Traditionally, archives had been these kind of very forbidding places in which you have these big, brick and mortar structures, and you have to be a scholar to enter, and you have this image of a stuffy person bringing out something and dropping it with a lot of dust coming off it. Archive 2.0 is all about engagement with the community. And what I mean by that, when we work with individuals or families or organizations, they have a stake in this. We have a shared authority, and they are very much helping us in, not only just meta tagging, like photographs, like we don't know who these people are. They are the ones who know it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, in how they want to tell that story, right? Whether it is a very sensitive story, like at one point, unfortunately, we had to deal with a very violent attack on a Lebanese couple in Florida, a lynching incident in 1921. So we were very sensitive to that story and the ethics of telling that story. But in everything we do, we are working again with an individual, family, organization to make sure that we are fulfilling their desires and they have a say in how we curate these things. And so that is absolutely essential to us. And we also want not only to do the preservation ourselves, because like you said, Natalie, none of us are going to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think Family Search is clearly far ahead of any other organization I can think of, but we still don't have the resources to do everything you want to do. So for us, it's also about educating the community and working with the community and say, look, I don't care where you preserve these things. Let us show you how to preserve them. And as long as you preserve them is all I care about, right? Because my
Yeah.
nightmare is, somebody unfortunately passes away and their children just throw these boxes of history into the garbage, and that
Exactly.
keeps me awake at night.
Yeah, that was my neighbor a couple of years ago. She was throwing out all these pictures, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
But yeah, it is. It's so true. But you're right. It is. Even at Family Search too, we want to. This is one of the reasons we would love having you here. Is we want to point people to the places where they can find this information, and so that they can benefit from it, right? And they can make those connections wherever it's found. Another question we have are there plans to work with any of the districts in Lebanon to digitize any of those birth and death records from your area? I know we would love to do that, and that's something we're working on, but I don't know if you're doing
listen,
anything like that.
Natalie, you and I know that we have been working together at Family Search and the Khairola Center for
Yeah,
about 5 years now, trying to get this project going. And I look, not to make a long story too long, but in
yeah,
essence, the records in the Middle East as a whole, in a previous episode that you and I were on, are highly decentralized.
correct.
Not only are they highly decentralized in where they're located, they're highly decentralized about who has authority to share them. And so that
Yeah,
creates a very complex process of provenance about who gives you the right to use these or not use these. But we are making progress,
okay,
slow progress. And we're hoping to have a pilot project in Lebanon in which we are digitizing these archives. And in fact, the reason we're working on the handwriting text recognition with Family Search is specifically because that's going to incredibly speed up our ability to start, once we get those records, to start digitizing them and making them digitally searchable through Family Search as well as other outlets.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a challenge to access those archives and, for them to allow us to digitize, anybody really from that area. A couple of other questions. So one of them, one of our listeners or viewers is saying that they have some records. They know that their family's from Tripoli in Lebanon, and some of the records were lost in a bombing. And so, but they know that their grandparents came here in 1898, right? And they're trying to find information about that. Who can they contact? Do you think you might have anything at the center? We can certainly look in our records,
Sure.
that
I mean,
we
we're
can find
happy.
that.
I mean, they can certainly reach out to us. I cannot guarantee that we will have something specific about that, but you never know. It may be that the names of the grandparents may have appeared in a newspaper or any of our other records. So I'm happy to talk to the individual, and if they send me an email, I'll be happy to take a look at their names and see what I can help with.
Yeah.
And it depends. There are other records. Quite frankly, a single. I mean, of course, the horrendous civil war in Lebanon has destroyed a lot of records. But believe me when I say there's still a lot of records. So if they happen to be Muslim, for example, the Sharia court records in Tripoli are intact, and those hold a lot of genealogical data as well.
Yeah. And Marilyn, you can also reach out to us too at Family Search, and we've got a couple of resources that we might be able to also see if we can help you in that area to find out more information. And we'll take this final question. And they said that they noticed that a lot of the records you were showing are in the Fusha, right? And the, kind of the calligraphic Arabic, if there's any help there. And I know you just talked about that for a second, but you want to just kind of reiterate that, if it's in Arabic, do we have to know that Arabic?
Yeah, it is definitely in Fusha, what we call Fusha, or the equivalent of modern standard Arabic. So yeah, it is not, every now and then you would see dialect written down, but generally speaking, yes, you do need to know some element of a modern standard Arabic in order for you to search. I mean, the least I would say what you need to know is what the alphabet looks like so that you can type what you think the name of your ancestors are. But obviously, to read it requires some element of knowledge of Arabic, and that's why I'm saying you will probably need to work with somebody who knows Arabic.
Yeah. Thank you. I know we got a question about, will it extend to Lebanese who went to Australia? I know it sounds like, Dr. Khater, you're already saying you're slowly expanding to other places. I know for Family Search, we also have records of Lebanese who went to Australia. So, that and other resources will continue to grow. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was really very helpful. And just so everybody knows, we're going to be putting the links to the Khairullah Center, to Family Search, and some other resources in the chat below for people to reference. As Dr. Khater said, they have a help outreach. You can reach out to them as well with other questions and for help. And then same with Family Search, we'd love to hear from you as well. We hope to continue to have these Facebook Lives to be able to answer your questions. If you have topics you'd like us to address relative to Middle Eastern family history, please put them in the chat. We'll continue to monitor that for a while as well. We'd love to hear from you and help you, find your ancestors, connect with them, learn more about them, and learn what their lives were about. So thank you again, Dr. Khater. We hope to have you again on our live. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye-bye, everyone.